Now you may be thinking, Jeff, what is this? You did a book review last week. I know. I finished enough books recently where I was like, I just gotta talk about them all or I'll forget. So here's this. So hello and welcome to What the Hey, where I'm your regular host of What the Hey, and today on What the Hey, I'm once again doing yet another book review with a boy. Today's book review with a boy is reviewing The Battle of the Labyrinth, and I have it here for visual effect, so there we go. Shout out once again to my best friend because she had the whole series, so I wouldn't have been reading this series if I didn't have my best friend. Shout out to you. So the book itself was written by Riordan. It was published on May 6th of 2008, and it is the fourth book within the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. In terms of the number of chapters, there are 20, and pages there are 361. So it's not that long of a read, and the font isn't that big, so it's like nice. You feel like you're actually accomplishing something when reading this book. So for this section of the video, I'm going to list the main characters of this book. There are also like returning characters, but I've mentioned those in previous videos. And then there's also like small minor characters that don't matter as much, they're just there. So I'm just going to mention the main ones. So first off, we of course have Percy Jackson, who is the main character of the series and this book. He is a half-blood and the son of Poseidon. So next off there would be Annabeth Chase, who is one of Percy's closer friends. She's also a half-blood, and then she's the daughter of Athena. She's super smart, which is one of the main things in this book, but there's her. So next there would be Rachel Elizabeth Dare, who is a mortal friend of Percy, who Percy met at like Hoover Dam in the last book, and she returns to help out Percy and Annabeth with their journeys. So another character who is at the beginning and more towards the end of the book would be Grover Underwood, who is another close friend of Percy. He is a satyr, and he basically goes on these journeys, and specifically in this book, to find the Greek god Pan, who is the Greek god of the wild. So he goes like on his own little quest, which is fun. There's Tyson, who is a Cyclops. He's like also Percy's half-brother, pretty much. So he's also a son of Poseidon, but he's a Cyclops, which is kind of just, that kind of goes into Greek mythology, which is cool. But he also works in like the forges of Poseidon, so he makes weapons and stuff. And then he also helps Percy on his quests. Another main character would be Nico D'Angelo, who is the son of Hades, who is like one of the big three Greek gods. And in this book, he's mainly on his own kind of quest to kind of avenge his dead sister Bianca in the previous book. That's kind of a spoiler if you haven't read the last book, but he's kind of on his own mission to like avenge his sister, even though he doesn't really need to, but whatever. The main antagonist of this whole series would be Luke, who was a traitor to, like, Olympus. He's the son of the Greek god Hermes, but he basically went and betrayed Olympus to help out Kronos, who is also another antagonist, but not the main one, because we don't really see him that much until, like, the end of the book, but I'll talk about that. But either way, Luke is basically the antagonist. Next would be Quintus, who is like a new camp counselor at Camp Half-Blood. He's really skilled with a sword, and he also has a hellhound named Mrs. O'Leary, and she's super fun. But he's just kind of like a new camp counselor who Percy is a little like wary of, but like he's impressed by his like sword skills, which is fun. The next character would be Daedalus. I think that's how you say it. I've heard people pronounce it different ways. But he's basically like a master craftsman, and he basically creates what is known as the Labyrinth in this book. But I'll kind of go into that in terms of plot in a bit. So I kind of said it already, but now it's time to talk about plot. For this video, in comparison to my other ones, I feel like I really kind of not necessarily dumbed down the plot, but I definitely did not include everything that happens in this book in terms of character and plot. So I would definitely say read the book if you get the chance. So the first main plot point is that Percy is attending his like freshman year orientation at high school, which is exciting because he hopes nothing can be messed up, but it eventually does because some monsters show up at the school and he eventually escapes to Camp Half-Blood. But it always sucks because at the beginning of the book, things are going nicely for Percy, and then it's like, no, bad times. But anyways, that's what starts at the beginning. When Percy gets to Camp Half-Blood, he finds out that his friend Grover Underwood is kind of in trouble because there's some like satyr elders who are telling him that Grover needs to find the Greek god Pan within like a week, or he gets like his searcher's license revoked because he hasn't really found him that quickly or just found him at all. So now Grover kind of has like his little quest. So this next plot point is mainly the whole plot of the book. So Annabeth and Percy are playing this game at Camp Half-Blood, or they're about to. They're kind of getting into position for it. And they accidentally come across an entrance into the Labyrinth, which is like made by Daedalus, who's like the craftsman and stuff. But it's bad because Luke could possibly find the entrance and get monsters into Camp Half-Blood because they want to destroy Half-Blood. So Percy and Annabeth are like, oh no, that's bad. So after Percy and Annabeth realize that they found like an entrance into the Labyrinth at Camp Half-Blood, Annabeth receives a quest which is pretty big for her because she's never received one like ever. The quest essentially is that Annabeth has to find Daedalus and basically ask him and tell him to not help Luke find the entrance at Camp Half-Blood because he could help him and that would just not be good. And for the quest, Annabeth agrees to take like Grover, Tyson, and Percy on it so she has friends with her. At the beginning, the group does stay together, but then eventually Tyson and Grover split up so Grover can find Pan, and then Annabeth and Percy kind of go on their continued mission to try and find Daedalus. Which Percy and Annabeth also kind of take a side quest because they go to Mount St. Helens to find like another Greek god to possibly help them out, but that also turns into a problem with finding some monsters there, and Percy himself escapes via earthquake, which is a little crazy. Percy and Annabeth eventually do meet up again, and then they add Rachel Elizabeth Dare to the quest because she's mortal and she can see easier through the maze, so she's brought along to help out. When Percy and Annabeth eventually get to where Daedalus's workshop is, they find Quintus, who actually turns out to be Daedalus. Like, it's all confusing, but he basically made this like fake body to like, you know, be a spy kind of, and it's weird, but that's just how it is. A fight breaks out in Daedalus's workshop. Percy, Annabeth, Rachel, and Nico escape because Nico brought along a king called Minos there to like exchange Daedalus's soul for like other people to like revive his dead sister, which is crazy, but they escape. While they're trying to exit back out, Percy runs into Luke, who eventually gets possessed by Kronos, so that's like a big problem because now Kronos is back. Then Percy escapes Kronos for a little bit, and then he runs into Grover and Tyson, and they find Pan, who is actually kind of like fading and dissolving like his spirit is because people don't believe in the wild or whatever. So Pan essentially dies, which is kind of disappointing, but okay. Then at the very end, there's a fight at Camp Half-Blood, like monsters and stuff come through the entrance from the Labyrinth to Camp Half-Blood, but Camp Half-Blood wins for the moment, and that's basically the end of the book. In terms of my general thoughts, I thought it was pretty okay. It wasn't my favorite book, but it was still fun. There's a part I didn't talk about plot-wise where Percy has to go to this, like, man flesh-eating horse barn and he scoops out a lot of poop, which is interesting. He also goes to this island where there's, like, a Greek goddess who, like, falls in love with him, but she's cursed to, like, fall in love with everyone that comes on her island, but they have to leave, so that's, like, her curse. Percy also has a birthday party and his dad shows up, which is Poseidon, so that's a little awkward, and Poseidon gives Percy a sand dollar, which Percy's confused by, but it's funny, and it's apparently gonna be, like, explained in the last book, so I don't know. Speaking of which, I'm already kind of reading through the last 5th book of the series, so I will do a video on that eventually. But yeah, nothing too crazy. I kind of felt disappointed that Pan pretty much died because Grover was looking so forward to finding Pan and like reviving the wild. But then again, Pan like kind of gave his spirit to some of the people like Percy, Annabeth, Grover. So it was like, yay. But yeah, that's essentially it. So if you have any questions about the book or the series, let me know and I'll try my best to answer them. I'll have a link to the book and information about it, so feel free to check that out if you would like to. But thank you very much for watching. Bye!